Hey everyone, welcome to the latest installment of The Way It Is, and I'm your host, as always, Luca Andolfato at Team Luca First Remax Service First Realty here in Kingston, and we're actually coming to you from the island in my kitchen because we're in that crazy electrical thunder and lightning storm that's happening out there, and I have internet here, so that's a good thing because the office doesn't have it. So I'm fortunate to have with us the newly crowned president of the Ontario Real Estate Association, Tania Artenosi, a fellow Italian, which is great. And Tania was kind enough to join us. Now, Tania, she's had a career based out of Vaughan. You've been a broker of record and a broker owner of a Coldwell Banker franchise in that area since 2007. In 2019, you were the president of the Barrie and District Association of Realtors. And then as well, you served as a member on various committees, including MLS and Technology, Governance, Finance, Membership Task Force. And at OREA, you had previously served as a member of the Marketing Communications Committee as well. And then at the AGM, you took over office, I think, on March 3rd of this year. So, well, thank you for being here. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you here, Tania, is because I had Tim Hudak on several weeks ago, and we talked about Tressa and the issues facing realtors and real estate. And so I guess wanted to get, you're not that you're new to organized real estate, but you're certainly new to being the president of OREA. You got your hands full, I think.
Yep, I do. and it's so funny because being a broker owner, right? You're used to speaking to your salespeople in plain language, don't always have to be very politically correct. And then all of a sudden, I get elected into this world, and here I am, and I got to make sure my T's are crossed and my I's are dotted. So,
which comes hard for Italians. I'm going to say that because I can say,
that passion, that
exactly, exactly. So, I can ask the sort of the really big question. I know in one of your a quote that I have of yours that I won't. I'll just paraphrase it, but essentially, this housing affordability thing is an issue for you and something that I think you seemingly are fairly passionate about. I guess speak to how you think, A, in your role, but B, we as realtors in Ontario can help that process or do something about that.
Well, I can say for realtors that the best thing that we can do is get involved, right? Like we have to. It has to be more than just buying and selling real estate, right? It has to be more than just us saying we need more supply. I think as realtors, because we have such in-depth knowledge about property and what it means to our community, that we have to immerse ourselves in our communities. We have to deal with our councillors. We have to talk to our mayors. We have to show up when there's big decisions being made at our city or town meetings. We have to immerse ourselves into that environment so that we can share our knowledge and expertise, which a lot of people at higher levels don't have, right? And this is why OREA is so great, because we are a pool of realtors from across the province and we bring vast knowledge. And so when we are advocating, we can truly say we're advocating at a provincial level because all of us at the board table have different experiences, different needs in our communities, and we pool our ideas together and we advocate for the province. So I'm all about education first. So we need to educate our clients, but we also need to educate our counselors and our governing bodies, even non-for-profit community groups. We need to educate them on what it means to, one, be a realtor and what it means for us to be able to get involved and bring affordable housing, not just housing, but affordable housing, and what ideas we may have based on what we've seen happening in the market.
Well, you know what? Those are very valid points, and I dare say that a majority of the membership, both in Ontario, and I'm not going to paint us all as purely about the money, but you're right. I don't think that we do participate enough. I mean, yes, I think we're giving community in the sense that we all do the volunteerism. We all volunteer when it comes time for the food drives, when it comes time to, whatever charity needs our support or whatever organization comes to us, and we step up that way. But you're right. I don't think we take a very active role when it comes to local government, when it comes to those initiatives that you've described there. I mean, I sit on a couple of boards, my own real estate board now for the first time in 35 years, and because I always sat on the sidelines, and part of it was I mean, I sat on other boards before that, and boards can be frustrating, as I'm sure you can agree, and especially when you're a broker owner. We're all self-employed. We have that entrepreneurial. I was just sitting having this conversation just before I got out here. We have that entrepreneurial mindset. We want to run a business like a business, and we get bogged down in the mire of organized committees and all of that, and so it becomes frustrating and it becomes a challenge. And I think that tends to keep people on the sidelines as opposed to participating, right, wrong, or indifferently. And not to make more committees, but is there an option to have an affordable housing task force at OREA or a committee formed? I mean, I know there's probably already committees that, or is there a committee that deals with that already?
Ideally, it all falls under our government relation committee. And then from that, we can create task force, right? So for example, we've got the Trusted Task Force, and it's doing its work in advocating and working with government. And then, if we need to create, because our government relations committee as a whole, if they couldn't handle what's coming at us, then yes, we would look at creating a task force. It would come to the board and we would all make a cohesive decision about creating that. But I think overall, we're all very committed to getting more homes to Ontario and getting more affordable housing. It kind of just circles everything that we do, right? So does it need one specific task force? I don't know. And we could look at it. But when I look at every committee and every group that we have, affordability and bringing more houses is always in there. It's always part of what we're doing. It's one of our major advocacy things.
Right. And I mean, when someone says affordable housing or housing affordability, there's a lot of interpretations or definitions of what those two phrases mean, to whoever is the participant, whoever's acting in that world. So I guess from you, or from your perspective, when someone says to you, how do we create more affordable housing or housing affordability? What does that mean to you? What's your interpretation of what that means?
To me, it means we don't need any more 10,000, 5,000 square foot single detached homes that are so easy to build. We have enough of those. And one family of 5 lives in them, where on that piece of land, you could build so much more and house 5 families, right? And build community. And, I've often talked about this. It seems to be something that always comes at me is, how do you get rid of exclusionary zoning, right? The red tape. It's okay to put a monster home on a piece of land, but it's not okay to put a 3 or 4 story building. That, I get it. In community, we want cohesiveness, right? So we don't just want the big brown building. We want it to fit in with the community, and that can be done. Right? These are the things when we think about affordable housing and affordable rental, we're missing them. So they're not affordable, because when it's there, it's gone. Right? And so when I think about affordable housing, it's just about changing the way we think about what a house is to someone. It's a safe place to grow your family, be involved in community. Obviously, it has to be a healthy environment, has to be well made, safe, but you have to be able to not just live in it, but thrive in your community as well. Right. That's what I think about. And there's so many spots that we could do this, little pockets here, there, take the houses and convert them, because some of them are on really great lots. And there are people who want to do that, but there's just so many barriers to it, along with the community, the actual people who live there, they're barriers too. So then you come into education. And I'm so big on education. Get out there and educate the community on what it's going to mean, what it's going to look like, and what the future is going to look like. I'm pretty passionate about it, so I keep on going on.
Yeah, no. I appreciate that, because there is a lot of NIMBYism that still is pervasive in our communities. Insofar as, a lot of people pay a lot of lip service to the headlines, right? And yes, we all agree, and we all need this, and we all need that. Oh, but you're going to do it in my neighborhood? Oh, but you're going to do it beside me? Right, exactly.
Or don't block my son. Don't block the son. That's the best one. I'm sure most Europeans know what I'm talking about, because they're the first.
Yeah. No. Well, you know what? Everybody should live in Italy for a little while. Exactly. And I'm not trying to exclude. I mean, you've got 70 million people living in a country there's 10 of them that you can fit 10 Italys in Ontario, I think, or 7 or something like that. Yeah. So it's crazy, right? And it's a really charged topic. I mean, and Ben and I were just talking about it before we came on air. I did a what we call a walk and talk, or a rant, last week's podcast, and it was about a scenario where a client of mine, who's a great guy, he's a business person. He actually he's not in Kingston, but he lives outside of Kingston, and he goes to work every day, and he's raising a family, and He's a good member of the citizenry and everything else, and he has a home here that his grandparents used to own, that he rents out, and we manage for him. And I told the story of, we had to wait 10 months to go to get our hearing at the board, and these people hadn't paid rent in 10 months, and now it'll be 11 by the time he gets the official decision. And so I walked and talked about that, and some of the backlash that I got from that section of the demographic, where they were saying, well, you shouldn't charge that kind of rent, and you shouldn't do this. And I mean, I get that rents are expensive, and I get that, but let's understand the problem at hand, right? Affordability has nothing to do with the fact that whether you should pay your rent or not, right? It has nothing to do that you shouldn't honor your obligation as a tenant, or your obligations as a landlord, for that matter, right? I mean, that has nothing to do with affordability. But anyway, I digress. I'm going off topic. But so we've touched on that. I want to get back to the TRESA stuff, which is the Trust in Real Estate Services Act, which the second leg was supposed to drop April 1st, and that got the big punt down the road, which actually, to be candid with you, Tania, I was relieved, because I did that one webinar with, what's the gentleman's name? Ray Ferris. Yeah. And our brokerage sat and watched it communally, and I shook my head, man. I just went, oh my God. Like, are we just wanting to generate more paperwork for our members? Are we just trying to catch up with the realities of what's been happening in real estate? I mean, what are your challenges with TRESA? I mean, obviously, I think it's a good thing in the end.
Listen, I mean, our goal is to be a province where we have the best rules and regulations to be professional. Okay, this is our goal. We all want this. We want to increase the reputation of realtors across the province, across Canada, for that matter. And all of what we're doing is a little bit of, some of it is a little simplified, some of it is a little more detailed, right? And yes, I think everyone breathed a sigh of relief when April Fool's Day came and went.
Exactly.
Right? But that was a lot of work. That was RICO and OREA working together, sitting at a table, collaborating, and then going to government and saying, look, we've come up with this idea. We think it's a great solution, and we need you to consider it and support it. And thank goodness they did, because it also gives everyone, I mean, as a broker owner, I was sweating when April 1st came, because you have so many agents, and how do you help every single, like, so you've got to get the education out there. And, we're doing a great job doing that. And Ray does a great job of presenting the changes. But, we want to get it right. Like, honestly, for myself, for OREA, like, we want to get it right. I want you to be able to look at everything and say, thank goodness OREA explained this properly to me and put the work in to get it to me as easy as possible. That's all we can do. And that's what we want to do. And so when April came and left and we have this extension, we don't know for how long yet, but I'll take it so that we can work even harder to bring it and deliver it better to our members.
Yeah. And you know what, going to that education piece, just from the experience of that webinar, and because I'm not going to lie, I'm not embarrassed to say I hadn't paid a lot of attention to it, and I knew it was coming, but I'm a quick study. And I mean, obviously you learn as you go and you get the forms and everything, but my takeaway was, and first off, you're right. I think the education piece almost has to come before this thing drops again. That's just my own personal opinion. Like, I think you've got to get people familiar with these forms. I mean, Rico still didn't even have that guide out, or what that they've introduced that we're still waiting to see and everything. So, I mean, I think that's got to get almost like if a restaurant would have a soft opening, if you will. You know what I'm saying? You've almost got to have members seeing those documents, getting familiar with them, because I think there are always bad actors, and we always get frustrated by them, 100%. And we can tell stories over countless bottles of wine. That goes without saying. And they're in every brokerage, get it. But I think, by and large, moreover, most members want to do the right thing, want to do a good job, have integrity, want to be professional, but sometimes they get in their own way, and sometimes there's just things that happen that they just can't navigate. And that's where I think some of the benefits of the policies in Tresso, or some of the document changes in Tresso, will help, because there is some clarity there, a bit more clarity in terms of like defining relationships, defining who you're working with, who's a client, no more customer, sorry. And I don't mean to ramble on, but I want to get your thoughts on self-represented parties, because to me, that's a real mire. Tanya. Like, I mean, I mean, I'm not putting you on the spot. I'm here to just have a conversation.
I get it. A self-represented party, it is what it is, and all we can do is, let them know what let a client know what self-represented means, and then send them along their way to find out what that is. And that's what the legislation wants us to do. They don't want us to get involved, right? So, okay, you're a self-represented party. Well, okay, here you go. Please read what self-represented party means. And then please go out and get your representation, and then come on over back to me. And I'll be happy to work with you in whatever that capacity is. What are we looking for? We're looking for more education to the buyer or seller. Okay, that's fine. It is what it is. It's not something that can be changed. All we can do is kind of embrace what's there and make sure that whatever's written is given to them, so that they can make an informed decision without our involvement.
But I mean, in the past, just for the listeners, the rule of thumb was you either treated someone as a customer or a client, meaning that if you had never had an interaction with them and they called you off your sign and you said, yeah, sure, I can show you the house, and hey, I want to put in an offer. For me, the rule of thumb was, listen, I can't represent you because I don't know you. I've never had a working relationship with you. We've never dealt with each other as client and realtor. But I can give you customer service, which essentially obligates me to the same level of as if you were a client, but you're not. But we're going to call you a customer. So, I mean, it's great. It's almost like the realtors are going to be too informed, because the general public is going to be walking around really not knowing that they have this option, right? I mean, who's informing them, I guess?
They'll be informed based on the document, right? The RICO document, the client document. They'll be informed because we will be mandated to make sure that they've seen it, read
Right.
it and know what relationship they're getting into. So they will be informed. The question is, and I can't speak, I can't speak for clients. This is just at the top of my head. Will they understand it and choose that form of representation? That's where my worry comes in. But my job is very clearly defined that I have to give them this document. I have to make sure they understand what they're reading. And if they have questions and I'm not representing them, then, you need to go find your representation to help you with this, because this person is my client, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
where, where we would be more like, yeah, no, this is what I mean. Go to your lawyer. Where, a good person would say, you know what, go to your lawyer and get your lawyer to explain this to you. I'm not talking to you about it, but the lawyer's going to, now it's just, you please go find out how to get this answered for yourself and come back to me.
Yeah.
I get it. I understand it's keeping realtors loyal and responsible to their true client. I understand it. And that's where the change is, because we all as realtors think we're doing something good by advising anybody, go talk to your lawyer. But, the legislation would sometimes say that that's a blurred line. So,
Well, and that, yeah. And I think that's where the one piece that I felt that I thought was really the best piece of all of it was this designated advocate, which I really, and again, that's where I say now we're actually putting a description or a name to what really goes on in the real world, right? I mean, the pragmatics of it, right? Because that's really what happens. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, we all know that in transactions that have all come before, we want to know that we're wearing the right hat and that who we're wearing it for. Right?
Exactly.
So
exactly. And you're defining that, the document is a document. It's a long document, but it outlines everything. And, we have to define our roles for our clients. Who is our client? We have to define our role for them. And they are our number one priority. And that's technically how we're moving forward. How it all looks and how it flows, that's what we're going to all learn. And we're going to share and do lots of education around it and, update documents and give realtors as much tangible things that they can use to go out there and do it right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
But great.
It's all about education.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It really is. It really
Every
is.
realtor needs to get educated and involved in TRUSA and learning what's happening.
Yes.
It's so important, and we'll all be better for it.
And then I guess I guess the prequel to TRUSA, in the sense that those that are getting licensed now or new licensees and stuff like that, because Ted had talked about this too, and I'm sure it's on your radar, obviously, and as at OREA, but the education piece for new licensees and everything like that, because I think there's a real, not only perceptually, but playing out in real time, a gap between those that get licensed and the knowledge that they have when they come to perform their job, right? I mean, I just don't think they're prepared enough. That's just my personal opinion. So,
yeah. I mean, listen, we've all gone through the schooling, right? I think, I know when I came out of the schooling, I wish I had a little more, like almost like co-op, right? Like just an opportunity to see it in action, to really understand it, right? And I think when we saw the changeover, we thought that something like that, more of that would happen. I don't really know. I know I've heard that some of that does happen. So, but they're going to have to learn this new rules and this new law. And I think that it'll be really imperative that they learn it through example versus just reading. Any
movement afoot, or anybody pushing for an apprenticeship or mentorship programs coming out of Humber or anything like that? I mean, that would be ideal, would it not? Because this is an industry where truly you really learn by doing it, right? By sitting beside someone that's doing it or done
by
it,
shadowing
right?
somebody, even,
right.
No matter how busy they are, we'll beg them, just let us sit there and listen to you. I'll be like a fly on the wall. You won't know I'm there. Right. I don't know, honestly, I don't know what Humber's going to do. It's kind of outside of of us as
Right. Yeah.
I don't know what their plans are, but I mean, there's always things we can recommend. And that's all really what we can do. I'm not really
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in most brokerages, like I'm sure your own, I mean, if it's a large enough brokerage, there's certainly reps there, or there's some training that goes with it
Lots
and
of
everything
training.
like that.
Lots of training. Really,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's it's the best way, and it's like I tell salespeople, as long as you're getting trained, real estate transactions, you learn as you go. Like, you really, I know it's you, but you learn as you go, right? You
Right.
have a listing, and this listing, I could never create this scenario for you because this house is unique, that seller's unique,
Right.
but I'll go with you every step of the way, right? You will fumble, but don't worry. Like, I'll be there to help you. And to me, that's the best support. You can, follow people, and that's great. You'll see a style, but honestly, every situation, and every situation is different.
I've done it for 35 years, and that I still get caught off guard by certain situations or scenarios,
Right?
and things like that. Right.
It's just everything pops up out of the middle of nowhere. You're like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah, exactly. Now, I should know this, but I don't. So, the OREA presidentship, is that a 2-year term or a 1-year term? What is it?
It's a 1-year term. So you start off as president-elect, and then you're president, and then you become past president, and then you quietly go off into the sunset.
Well, and all the local boards are like that too. And I thought about that, and I think to myself, is that because I had my thoughts about if that's a good policy or not, because you're just starting to get your legs underneath you, you're getting comfortable with what's going on, and then you're gone. I mean, yeah, okay, you stay on as past president for another year, and you're president-elect for 1 year, but I don't know. I often wondered if that was the right call or not, if it shouldn't be a minimum 2 years or something, and give someone some tenure.
I'll let you know how I feel after this year.
Well, listen, I don't doubt people want to bail after the first year. I'm going to guess that's probably the case.
You know what? So many people have asked me that, but really it's 3 years, right? Because you start off as a president-elect, and you're involved in everything that current president is working on. Then you become president, and you kind of carry on most of the initiative that have started, and you bring in new ones that your president-elect is help. So it all kind of flows. Like, I didn't come into being president not knowing what the key things were. I had a really good president before me, and the staff is amazing. Everybody knows Tim. He's awesome. And you don't have a problem transitioning into being president, because when you're a president-elect, everything, you're involved. So it all just flows. So you do 3 years, and in 3 years, whatever you started in your PE year, usually you can, scream an accomplishment at the top of the mountain. So I think it's pretty good.
Yeah. No, it's a big commitment too, right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's a big commitment.
It's a big commitment.
Yeah.
And then, you go into the sunset, but really, once you have that mass experience at a provincial level, you end up continuing to volunteer at the provincial level, or some people will go to the Canadian Real Estate Association, or they'll go back to their local board because they've, learned all this knowledge, and they can bring things about. You're never out of it. But trust me, if we are in this part of organized real estate, it's because we love it. Yeah. You really got to have a passion and love for it.
No, for sure. Yeah. And I won't keep you too much longer. So we'll, and there's an elephant in the room that I'm not going to talk about, and that's the realtor.ca thing. So we'll save that for another time, but I'm going to leave this. So parting words, what's, I guess, I mean, I know housing affordability is a thing, but so in a year's time, you're right off as past president. You're looking back, what's something that you want to say, yes, that was successful to me? That was my tenure as president was successful. What would life look like, I guess?
So there's a couple of things. I want to be able to say that I enhanced and increased education for our realtors in the province, because that's a big one for me more than anything. I want to be able to say we successfully transitioned Tressa into the environment, and realtors are thriving, successful about it. And then I want to be able to end off the year by saying we were able to implement a realtor wellness program for all Ontario realtors. So if I can say those three things, and some, a few little other things, but but those are the three main things, that would make me really happy. I'd really, really be happy with that.
Well, listen, you know what? I wish you all the best in in achieving those goals. And something tells me, given your DNA, that I think that you're going to do everything in your power to accomplish those. So I wish you all the best, and I'm sure we'll cross paths at some form of leadership or OREA conference in the near future. So thanks again for your time, Tania. I really appreciate it. So.
Oh, thank you for having me. Anytime. I'll come back.
Okay. All right.